Life will not always move the way we expect it to move. There will be moments when plans change without warning, when circumstances feel heavier than our strength, and when the world seems determined to test our patience. In those moments, we may feel small against the vastness of events around us. But tonight, I want you to remember something powerful and deeply personal. While you cannot always control what happens in life, you hold authority over your thoughts, your attitude, and the way you choose to respond. And in that quiet space between what happens and how you react, your true strength begins to rise. Life will always carry uncertainty, but your response is your power. You cannot predict every event, and you cannot arrange every outcome to match your desires. There will be days when things unfold smoothly, and there will be days when nothing seems to cooperate with your plans. Yet in every situation, one truth remains unshaken. You are never powerless over your reaction. The world may speak loudly, but your inner voice is louder. Life may knock on your door unexpectedly, but you decide whether to open it with fear or with courage. When challenges appear, they often try to convince you that you are defeated before you have even begun. They may disguise themselves as delays, rejections, misunderstandings, or disappointments. But challenges are not sent to destroy you. They are opportunities to strengthen the part of you that cannot be seen. Your response determines whether an obstacle becomes a stopping point or a stepping stone. If you respond with frustration, the moment feels heavier. If you respond with patience, you gain clarity. If you respond with resilience, you gain growth. There is great power in choosing your mindset. Thoughts are not just passing ideas, they are the foundation of your emotions and actions. When you train your mind to look for solutions instead of problems, you begin to shift your experience of life. When you remind yourself that setbacks are temporary, you prevent temporary pain from becoming permanent discouragement. Your response can turn an ordinary day into a lesson and a painful moment into wisdom. That transformation begins within you. No one can control every circumstance, not the weather of life, not the behavior of others, and not the timing of events. But you can control the tone of your inner dialogue. You can choose self-respect over self-criticism. You can choose calm reflection over impulsive reaction. You can choose hope even when circumstances appear uncertain. These choices may seem small, but they shape your character and define your journey. When life tests you, it is not asking you to control everything around you. It is asking you to strengthen what is within you. Every challenge is an invitation to respond differently than you did before. Growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in conscious response. When you pause before reacting, when you breathe before deciding, and when you think before speaking, you reclaim your authority over your own life. Remember, you cannot always decide what happens to you, but you can always decide what happens inside you. That is where your freedom lives. Your response is your signature on every situation. It tells the world who you are becoming. And when you choose wisdom over worry, courage over fear, and determination over doubt, you prove that while life may be unpredictable, your strength is not. You cannot control circumstances, but you can control your attitude. This truth may seem simple, yet it carries the strength to reshape an entire life. Circumstances will rise and fall without asking for your permission. Plans may shift, people may misunderstand you, opportunities may delay, and unexpected challenges may appear at the most inconvenient times. However, in every situation, your attitude stands as your personal decision. It is the lens through which you see the world, and that lens can either darken your view or illuminate it with possibility. Attitude is not about pretending that difficulties do not exist. It is about choosing how you interpret them. Two people can face the same storm, yet one may feel defeated while the other feels determined. The difference is not in the weather, it is in the mindset. When you choose a positive and resilient attitude, you allow yourself to grow even in discomfort. You acknowledge the reality of the moment, but you refuse to let it define your future. That quiet decision becomes the foundation of strength. There will be times when circumstances feel unfair. You may work hard and still not receive immediate results. You may give kindness and not receive it in return. In such moments, it is easy to let frustration shape your attitude. But remember that reacting with negativity does not change the situation, it only changes your peace. When you consciously choose patience, you preserve your energy. When you choose gratitude, you protect your spirit. When you choose hope, you create space for new opportunities to enter. Your attitude influences not only how you feel, but also how you move. A hopeful attitude encourages effort. A determined attitude fuels persistence. A calm attitude strengthens decision making. Circumstances may attempt to slow you down, but your attitude can keep you moving forward. It reminds you that setbacks are temporary and that growth often begins where comfort ends. Each time you respond with maturity instead of complaint, you build character, and character, once built, cannot be easily shaken. Controlling your attitude is also an act of self-respect. It means refusing to allow external events to steal your inner stability. It means understanding that while you cannot dictate every outcome, you can always decide your outlook. That decision empowers you to take responsibility for your emotional world. Instead of asking why everything is happening, you begin asking what you can learn from it. That shift transforms obstacles into lessons and pressure into preparation. Life will continue to bring unexpected turns, but your attitude will determine whether those turns become detours or discoveries. When you choose optimism, you invite creativity into problem solving. When you choose resilience, you strengthen your endurance. When you choose faith in yourself, you awaken confidence that circumstances cannot silence. In every moment, you hold the quiet power to respond with dignity. So when events feel beyond your control, return to the one thing that remains yours. Choose your attitude wisely, guard it carefully, nurture it daily. For while circumstances may shape your path, it is your attitude that shapes your journey, and that choice belongs entirely to you. Your thoughts shape your reality more than events ever will. What happens around you is important, but what happens within you is powerful beyond measure. Two people can stand in the same room, face the same challenge, and experience completely different outcomes, not because their circumstances differ, but because their thoughts do. The mind has a remarkable ability to interpret situations, and that interpretation becomes the foundation of your emotional world. When you choose thoughts of possibility, you open doors. When you choose thoughts of defeat, you close them before even trying the handle. Every action begins as a thought. Before courage is spoken, it is first imagined. Before change is made, it is first considered. Your daily life is quietly shaped by the ideas you repeat to yourself. If you tell yourself that something is too difficult, your energy will follow that belief. If you remind yourself that growth takes time, your patience will expand. Thoughts are seeds, and whether you realize it or not, you are planting them constantly. The question is not whether you are thinking, but what you are choosing to think. When challenges appear, your thoughts determine whether you see a wall or a pathway. A limiting thought says, "This is impossible." A constructive thought says, "This will require effort." The situation may remain the same, but your inner dialogue changes your experience of it. By adjusting your thoughts, you adjust your direction. This is not about denying reality. It is about deciding how you will engage with it. Reality may present obstacles, but your mind can search for solutions. It is important to understand that thoughts can either strengthen you or weaken you. Repeated negative thinking can create doubt, hesitation, and fear. Over time, these emotions can shape your behavior and influence your results. But when you consciously practice empowering thoughts, you build confidence and clarity. Encouraging thoughts do not remove difficulties, but they give you the courage to face them. In this way, Your mindset becomes your greatest ally. There will be moments when circumstances feel overwhelming, and it may seem easier to surrender to worry. In those moments, pause and observe your thoughts carefully. Ask yourself whether they are helping you move forward or holding you back. You have the ability to replace a discouraging thought with a constructive one. This simple shift can change your emotional state and guide your next step. Small adjustments in thinking can lead to significant changes in life. Your reality is not only shaped by events, but by the meaning you assign to those events. When you choose growth over fear, you transform setbacks into lessons. When you choose resilience over resignation, you transform struggle into strength. When you choose hope over doubt, you transform uncertainty into opportunity. Your thoughts are not just private whispers inside your mind, they are architects of your future. So guard your thoughts with care. Speak to yourself with encouragement. Challenge beliefs that limit your potential. Remember that each thought is a choice, and each choice shapes the path ahead. When you learn to guide your thoughts with intention, you begin to shape your reality with purpose, and that quiet mastery becomes the beginning of lasting transformation. Inner peace is stronger than outer chaos. The world may move loudly around you, filled with opinions, demands, deadlines, and distractions. Yet there is a place within you that can remain steady. Outer chaos often tries to convince you that urgency equals importance and noise equals truth. But inner peace does not shout, it does not compete, it does not rush. It simply stands firm, like a quiet strength that cannot be easily shaken. When life becomes overwhelming, many people believe the answer is to control everything outside themselves. They try to fix every problem at once, to respond to every voice, and to meet every expectation. But true stability does not come from controlling the environment. It comes from calming the mind. Inner peace allows you to observe situations without being consumed by them. It gives you the clarity to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. In moments of tension, peace becomes your greatest protection. Outer chaos can take many forms. It may appear as conflict in relationships, uncertainty in work, pressure from responsibilities, or unexpected change. These experiences can create emotional noise that disturbs your focus. Yet when you nurture inner peace, you develop the ability to remain grounded even when circumstances are unsettled. Peace does not mean that problems disappear. It means that problems no longer control your emotions. You become anchored, not because life is calm, but because your heart has learned stability. Inner peace is strengthened through intentional choices. It grows when you pause before responding. It deepens when you forgive instead of holding on to resentment. It expands when you accept what you cannot change and focus your energy on what you can improve. Each time you choose patience over frustration, you reinforce your inner balance. Each time you choose understanding over anger, you build emotional strength. These decisions may seem small, but they gradually shape a resilient spirit. There will always be external noise, but you do not have to invite it into your inner world. You can listen without absorbing. You can observe without internalizing. When you protect your peace, you protect your clarity. And when your mind is clear, your decisions become wiser. Outer chaos often fades with time, but inner peace remains a lasting foundation that supports you through every season. Peace also gives you perspective. It reminds you that temporary challenges do not define permanent identity. It helps you see beyond immediate stress and recognize long-term growth. When your inner world is calm, even difficult moments become manageable. You begin to understand that not every situation requires a reaction, and not every opinion requires a response. Silence sometimes is strength. So when the world feels uncertain, return to your inner center. Breathe deeply. Speak gently to yourself. Allow calmness to guide your thoughts. Outer chaos may continue to exist, but it does not have to live inside you. When you cultivate inner peace, you carry stability wherever you go, and that quiet strength will always be stronger than the noise around you. Discipline of the mind creates freedom of the soul. At first, discipline may sound restrictive, as if it limits your choices or confines your spirit. But true discipline is not a cage, it is a key. It is the steady guidance that protects your thoughts from wandering into fear, doubt, and negativity. When your mind is undisciplined, it reacts to every impulse and every distraction. It becomes easily influenced by temporary emotions. Yet when your mind is trained with intention, it becomes focused, calm, and purposeful. That focus opens space for peace and growth. An undisciplined mind often follows the loudest voice in the room. It can be swayed by criticism, shaken by setbacks, and discouraged by comparison. Without awareness, thoughts can spiral into worry or self-doubt. Over time, this mental chaos can limit your confidence and drain your energy. Discipline interrupts that pattern. It teaches you to pause before believing every thought. It teaches you to question negativity instead of accepting it. In that pause, you reclaim control. Mental discipline is built through small daily choices. It grows when you choose constructive thinking over destructive thinking. It strengthens when you focus on solutions instead of repeating problems. It deepens when you replace self-criticism with self-correction. Each time you redirect your thoughts toward growth, you strengthen your inner stability. The more you practice this awareness, the more natural it becomes. What once required effort becomes a habit of strength. When your mind is disciplined, your emotions become balanced. You no longer feel controlled by every mood or reaction. Instead of responding impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. Instead of being overwhelmed by fear, you examine it calmly. This balance allows your soul to breathe. Freedom of the soul does not mean a life without challenges. It means a life where challenges do not imprison your spirit. You move forward without carrying unnecessary mental weight. Discipline also creates clarity. When distractions are reduced, purpose becomes visible. A focused mind can set goals and remain committed to them. It can resist short-term temptations in favor of long-term growth. This commitment builds confidence, and confidence nurtures freedom. You begin to trust yourself. You understand that your progress is not determined by sudden bursts of motivation, but by consistent mental strength. There will be moments when discipline feels difficult. It requires patience, persistence, and honesty with yourself. It asks you to confront habits that no longer serve you. But through that effort, you discover empowerment. You learn that you are capable of guiding your own thoughts rather than being guided by them. That realization transforms the way you experience life. When the mind is steady and intentional, the soul feels lighter. You are no longer trapped by doubt or controlled by negativity. Instead, you experience a quiet confidence that allows you to act with courage and live with purpose. Discipline of the mind is not about restriction, it is about liberation. It creates the inner order that leads to lasting freedom, and through that freedom, you begin to live fully and authentically. Emotional control is a form of self-respect. It is the quiet decision to value your inner stability more than a temporary reaction. Emotions are natural and necessary. They allow you to feel deeply, to connect, and to understand your experiences. But when emotions begin to control your actions without reflection, they can lead you away from your true character. Self-respect begins when you recognize that not every feeling requires immediate expression, and not every impulse deserves your energy. There will be moments when anger feels justified, when frustration rises quickly, or when disappointment settles heavily in your heart. In those moments, it may seem easier to react without thinking, yet every reaction carries consequences. Words spoken in haste cannot be withdrawn easily. Decisions made in emotional intensity often create regret. Choosing emotional control does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means honoring them enough to respond wisely. It means allowing yourself to feel without allowing those feelings to dictate your behavior. When you practice emotional control, You demonstrate strength that others may not always see, but you will always feel. It requires patience to pause when provoked. It requires maturity to listen when misunderstood. It requires courage to remain calm when others expect you to lose composure. This discipline protects your dignity. It ensures that your actions align with your values rather than momentary emotion. In that alignment, self-respect grows stronger. Emotional control also preserves your peace. When you allow every external comment or situation to disturb you, your energy becomes scattered. You begin to live reactively, constantly adjusting to the behavior of others. But when you develop control over your emotional responses, you reclaim ownership of your inner world. You decide what deserves your attention and what does not. You choose which situations require engagement and which are better met with silence. That choice is powerful. Self-respect is reflected in how you handle difficulty. When you remain composed during conflict, you show confidence. When you respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively, you show wisdom. When you forgive rather than hold resentment, you show emotional strength. These actions do not make you weak, they make you grounded. They show that your character is not easily shaken by temporary discomfort. There will always be situations designed to test your emotional stability. People may challenge your patience. Circumstances may challenge your optimism. Yet every test is an opportunity to strengthen your control. Each time you choose a measured response over a reactive one, you reinforce your sense of self. You remind yourself that your peace is valuable and your dignity is worth protecting. Emotional control is not about being distant or unfeeling. It is about being intentional. It allows you to express yourself clearly and calmly without harming yourself or others. It helps you maintain balance in both success and struggle. By mastering your emotional responses, you demonstrate respect for your own growth. And through that respect, you build a steady foundation that supports every area of your life. Resilience begins with self-talk. Long before strength is visible in your actions, it is formed quietly in the words you speak to yourself. In moments of difficulty, when no one else is present to encourage you, your inner voice becomes your closest companion. That voice can either lift you or limit you. It can remind you of your capability, or it can repeat your fears. The way you speak to yourself during hardship often determines how long you remain there. Every challenge introduces a conversation in your mind. When something does not go as planned, you begin to interpret what it means. If your self-talk says, "I always fail," discouragement quickly follows. If it says, "This is a lesson," strength begins to rise. The situation may remain unchanged, but the meaning you assign to it shifts your emotional response. Resilience is not built from pretending that pain does not exist. It is built from refusing to let pain define your identity. Your inner dialogue shapes your endurance. When you tell yourself that you are capable of learning, you become more willing to try again. When you remind yourself that setbacks are temporary, you prevent them from becoming permanent obstacles in your mind. The words you repeat daily form beliefs, and beliefs influence behavior. Encouraging self-talk fuels perseverance. Negative self-talk drains it. Over time, this pattern becomes the foundation of how you handle adversity. It is important to notice the tone of your internal voice. Many people speak to themselves with more criticism than they would ever use with a friend. They focus on mistakes without acknowledging effort. They highlight flaws without recognizing growth. This harshness weakens resilience. Strength grows when your self-talk includes patience and understanding. You can hold yourself accountable while still being compassionate. You can correct your errors without attacking your worth. Resilient self-talk does not ignore reality. It does not deny difficulty. Instead, it speaks with honesty and hope at the same time. It says, "This is challenging, but I will learn from it." It says, "I feel discouraged, but I will not give up." It balances realism with determination. That balance keeps you moving forward, even when progress feels slow. Over time, these steady words create a mindset that refuses to surrender easily. There will be moments when external encouragement is absent. During those times, your self-talk becomes your anchor. It reminds you of previous victories. It recalls times when you overcame obstacles you once thought impossible. It points to your growth rather than your shortcomings. This internal support system strengthens your emotional stability and prepares you for future challenges. Resilience is not an instant reaction, it is a practiced habit. Each time you replace a discouraging thought with a constructive one, you strengthen that habit. Each time you speak with confidence instead of doubt, you reinforce your inner courage. Slowly, your mind learns to respond to hardship with steadiness rather than fear. In the end, resilience begins quietly, in the private language of your thoughts. When you choose words that empower instead of diminish, you create a foundation that can withstand pressure. And from that foundation, strength continues to rise, steady and unshaken. Fear loses power when the mind refuses to surrender. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty, to risk, to the unfamiliar path ahead. It arrives quietly at times, and at other moments, it rushes in without warning. It can make your heart race and your confidence tremble. Yet fear, on its own, does not control your life. It only gains control when your mind agrees to follow it. The moment your mind decides to stand firm, fear begins to weaken. Fear often speaks in questions that create doubt. It asks, what if you fail? What if you are not enough? What if things go wrong? These questions can feel convincing, especially when repeated often. But fear rarely asks, what if you succeed? What if you grow? What if this challenge shapes you into someone stronger? When your mind learns to challenge fearful thoughts instead of accepting them, you begin to shift the balance of power. You remind yourself that uncertainty does not equal defeat. Surrendering to fear limits possibilities before they are explored. It keeps dreams unattempted and goals unfinished. It convinces you to stay where you are, even when growth requires movement. But when your mind refuses to surrender, something remarkable happens. Courage does not always remove fear. It simply moves forward despite it. You begin to understand that fear is often a sign that you are stepping beyond your comfort zone, and growth has always lived just outside that zone. There will be moments when fear feels overwhelming. It may appear before a big decision, a new opportunity, or an important change. In those moments, your mind becomes your greatest ally. Instead of focusing on imagined failure, you can focus on preparation. Instead of dwelling on doubt, you can remind yourself of past victories. Each time you choose to act with confidence rather than hesitation, you reduce fear's influence. Action weakens fear more effectively than avoidance ever could. Fear also thrives in silence and isolation. It grows when left unquestioned, but when you bring awareness to it, when you examine it calmly, it often becomes smaller than it first appeared. You realize that many fears are assumptions, not certainties. By choosing rational thought over exaggerated worry, you regain perspective. This clarity allows you to make decisions based on reason rather than anxiety. Refusing to surrender your mind to fear does not mean ignoring risks or acting carelessly. It means evaluating situations thoughtfully and moving forward with intention. It means recognizing that fear is a feeling, not a command. You are allowed to feel afraid, but you are not required to obey that fear. The power lies in that distinction. Over time, every moment of courage strengthens your confidence. Each step taken despite fear builds trust in yourself. You begin to see that fear cannot stop a determined mind. It may slow you briefly, but it cannot defeat you unless you allow it to. When your mind remains steady, fear gradually loses its authority. In the end, fear is temporary, but determination can be lasting. When your mind refuses to surrender, you prove to yourself that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward anyway. And in that decision, fear fades, while strength continues to rise. Mastering your mind is mastering your destiny. Destiny is often spoken of as something distant, something written in the stars, or shaped by circumstances beyond reach. Yet the direction of your life is deeply influenced by the quality of your thoughts. The mind is where decisions are formed, where beliefs are strengthened, and where visions of the future begin to take shape. When your mind is guided with awareness and intention, your path becomes clearer. When it is left unchecked, your direction becomes uncertain. Every choice you make begins as a thought. Before you act, you consider. Before you speak, you reflect. Before you pursue a goal, you imagine it. These quiet mental processes shape the course of your life more than any external force. If your thoughts are disciplined, focused, and hopeful, your actions will follow that pattern. If your thoughts are scattered or negative, your results may reflect that confusion. Mastery of the mind is not about controlling every passing idea, but about choosing which thoughts deserve your attention. When you take responsibility for your thinking, you take responsibility for your future. Instead of blaming circumstances for every setback, you begin to examine your responses. Instead of waiting for motivation to appear, you cultivate it through intentional focus. This shift changes how you approach opportunities. You become proactive rather than reactive. You start building your destiny step by step, guided by clarity instead of impulse. Mastering your mind also requires patience. It is not achieved in a single moment of realization, but through consistent practice. You learn to recognize distractions and gently return to your purpose. You learn to replace limiting beliefs with constructive ones. You learn to focus on long-term growth instead of short-term comfort. Each small mental victory strengthens your confidence and sharpens your direction. There will be moments when doubt attempts to interrupt your progress. The mind may wander toward comparison or fear. In those moments, mastery means guiding yourself back to truth. It means reminding yourself of your goals and your capabilities. It means refusing to let temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions. This steady guidance shapes your habits, and your habits shape your future. Your destiny is not shaped only by major milestones. It is shaped daily by repeated thoughts and consistent actions. When your mind is aligned with purpose, your choices reflect that alignment. You begin to notice opportunities that once seemed invisible. You respond to challenges with strategy rather than panic. Over time, these responses create progress that feels intentional rather than accidental. Mastering your mind does not guarantee a life without difficulty. Challenges will still arise, and uncertainty will still exist. But when your thinking is steady and purposeful, you navigate those challenges with confidence. You do not feel lost when obstacles appear, because your direction comes from within. In the end, your destiny is built from the inside out. By strengthening your focus, guiding your thoughts, and choosing intention over impulse, you shape the course of your life. When you master your mind, you do not simply react to the future, you create it.